Hey guys, Mike here from Penhollow Sporting Optics. I hope you guys are having a great week or a great day or however this video finds you. I want to do a quick little video. I got an email asking, actually several emails, asking me about the Vortex Venom and if I'd had a chance to get a hold of one. And the short answer to that question is no. I have not had any success getting hold of a Vortex Venom. So I want to kind of go over some other emails that I got, which was, what is my favorite scope, my favorite overall scope? I'm more of a budget scope guy, and I like the high-end optics. I use the high-end optics for competition, and there's reasons why I do that. But for just standard hunting, all-around purposes, I've got quite a collection of Arkens. I like Arken scopes. I like the tracking in the Arken scopes. I like that they have stainless steel internals, and I just like the overall functionality of them. I like the reticle. I'm a fan of the reticle. And mill, MOA version, it really doesn't matter to me. I've had success with both in the field and success with both in competition. So to get straight to it, this is my deer hunting setup. Of course, a lot of guys build guns. I'm gonna, a good friend of mine, Cameron, he's a good example of this. We talk about building guns all the time, and the first thing we talk, boy, that'd make a good deer rifle. So, anyways, this is the gun that I deer hunt with. This is a 280 AI. It's a Remington long action. This is a gun I put together myself. It's got a McGowan Precision octagon barrel on it. I wanted an octagon Remington. I had never seen one, so I put one together. On top of it is a Arken. This is an SH4. This is a 4-14. This is the Gen 1 model. This scope has been on this gun. This will be its third season. Now, this particular setup, I don't shoot a whole lot except for when it comes time to go deer hunting. I'm always playing with loads and stuff like that, so there's not a lot of dialing that this scope gets. Now, if I do dial it, I do use it. I have no plans of changing this out until we get the wall of fame going in there, and this scope is one of the scopes that's going to go on there. It's just one of the first scopes I purchased from Arken as a dealer, and it's a scope that I've had ever since I started with them. Arken was the first company that I started. When I started my business, Arken was the first company that I started carrying as an optic, was their scope. So, long story short, this is my deer rifle setup. It has a scope throw level on it. It has a level on it. It has some Butler Creek caps on there. It's the Arken, like I said, the Gen 1 4-14. It's a great scope. It is a mill version. It's not MOA. And I have no issues with that at all in the field. Of course, a lot of times the shots I take are under 200 yards, so with the 280, it's just, you just raise the crosshair up a little bit. I mean, it's a pretty flat shooting round, so there's not much to it. You put the reticle on the deer and pull the trigger. And it's a DRT rifle. And DRT means it drops right there. So that's one of the phrases I like to use when I build a gun is, especially for hunting, I want it to be a DRT rifle. I want it to drop right there. So that's my 280 AI. Moving on, a lot of you guys probably don't know that, or maybe you've seen some of my other videos where I've built some AR-15s. This is one that I put together. Now, put together, build, however you want to phrase it. It's a gun that I bought parts for and I assembled. I picked all the parts out for it. I put it together. I'm a big White Oak Armory barrel fan. I like White Oak Armory barrels. They're great barrels. I've never had a bad one, and I've shot a lot of White Oak barrels. So White Oak Armory is one thing I like. I like the Aero Precision upper and lowers. They're a great upper and lower set, and then you can pick whatever you want. I mean, this is a BCM. I've had a couple guns I built based on BCM guns that I've seen put together. So I put together a BCM gun, one of my first ones. It was all BCM. What's sitting on top here? Well, it's an SH4 Gen 2 4-16, another Arken. This scope does great on this setup. I'm get out to 500 yards comfortably with this guy. I really don't like shooting the 223 past 500 yards because it loses a lot of punch. So this is kind of a predator setup. You know, we build guns based on, around here, based on predator season, hunting season, and some target stuff, you know. But mostly stuff like this is you know, predator or some type of hunting. This is not a home defense setup. This is just a basic predator setup, a fun gun, if you want to call it that. Okay, another Arken SH4 Gen 2 4-16. Now here recently, this is a Terminus build. This is a gun we put together. It is a 6mm XC, so it's a 6XC, or the 6XC we like to call it around here. This is a it's a 16-inch barrel, short barrel, suppressed. Why would you shoot a 6mm suppressed? Well, I don't know, because nobody else is doing it, I guess. I mean, it's just a fun gun. And what's sitting on top of it? Well, it's another Arken SH4 4-16 MOA version scope. These scopes, I've used them in the field. I've been behind them a lot. Then we go over here to kind of a long range build. This is a 6.5 Creedmoor. This is a Lilja barrel. This is a gun that a gunsmith put together for me. It's a 1960s M24 action. This combination, this barreled action with this trigger, has been together in my possession for quite a long time. This gun shoots lights out. It's a great gun. Now it's setting in a Bagara. This actually was coming on my 22 chassis, so it's a 22 chassis, which is, you know, one of their chassis, but it's set up for a short action Remington. This is an EP4 6-24, and it's a great piece of kit. It works. I've won a few competitions with this. This gun's actually won more than a few competitions with other shooters. So this is another great build, another example of Arken. Now, when you look at scopes and you talk about scopes, the one thing that stands out more to me, that's more important than anything else, is for me, is how does the scope track? So tracking being number one, and then the next thing in my mind, if it's a side focus scope, does the side focus move your point of impact when you're looking downrange? That's another very important point. So far, these guns right here, and there's every generation of Arken setting here. I do not have a 6-24 out here, but I do have one that's not mounted on a gun. I just run out of room on the table. So 6-24 SH4 Gen 2, I do run one of those. I spend time behind each and every one of these guns. This one, more so during hunting season. This is just a play setup. This is a long range setup, which I spend a lot of time behind this guy, and this one's fairly new. This is a fairly new build for us. So that being said, the difference between product knowledge, you know, what you read and what you've been told and able to spout off numbers on a box, is way different than actually being in the field, being behind the scope, or being in a competition using the optic or whatever you're talking about. Now, we do, around here, we shoot a lot. We spend time at the Mile High videos for that. We spend time at the shorter ranges, and we spend time on our own personal range right back here doing load development. So we put a lot of rounds downrange, and the products that we talked about and the products I talked about are products that I use personally, that I spend a lot of time behind. And the reason I spend time behind that product is because I want to back a product that works, that runs, that does its job. These guys, optically, are they the best? No, they're not the best glass you can buy, but that's not what you're paying for. You're paying for a whole package. The glass is good enough to get the job done. The tracking is great. It's within the 98%. It works, it repeats, it does what it's supposed to do. It returns to zero. The side focus, on these particular scopes here that I have a sampling of that I am using, there's nothing wrong with the side focus. Side focus does not change the point of impact when you're looking down range. I've done a video on a higher end scope, and I have proof that the reticle moved when you moved the side focus. So, you know, that was a very expensive scope that was doing that. These particular scopes right here don't do that. If they did, they would not be on these guns. I would not be using them. I would be using something else. So this is my collection of Arkens. This is what I use. These are, when you say favorite, this is what I have the most of. And the reason I have the most of these scopes is because my very first dealing, my very first dealer initialization, my first setup, my first scope company that I carried was Arken. So I have a lot of Arkens. I use a lot of Arkens. I still use a lot of Arkens. I have this set up for a beat around gun that we're going to be using for predator hunting. We're also going to try to take a deer with it this year. I prefer illumination. I've got two scopes here that don't have illumination, but I prefer illumination for low light stuff. So it's all a matter of preference, guys. It's what you like. I'm just telling you that when I tell you guys something, it's something I have literally spent time behind, something that I have used. I'll mention another scope here. This is the Helos BTR Gen 2. Okay, this is a first focal plane. I have had this on a few videos. It's a 6-24 30mm tube, 56mm objective. I absolutely love this scope. For $600, it is a great scope. It's got lockable turrets. It does everything right. The reticle, well, I say not everything. The reticle's a little thick, okay, for me. Somebody else may not mind that. Some of the other guys, they use their competition guns, okay, they can only afford, one gun. There's nothing wrong with that. So they can only afford one gun, and they choose to run this scope because it's kind of a crossover between competition and hunting. The reticle's thick enough that they could use it to hunt with, but it's thin enough that they can use it to shoot targets with. So, that's a preference, okay? I personally, I'm only running one of these scopes. Now some of the guys we shoot with are running this scope, and they're having success with it, and they really like it. And is it an optical upgrade from the Arken? Yes, it is. The glass is a little clearer than the SH4s, but it's more money. So it really depends. It's price versus what you want. If I sit on the table and I had an Arken and I was shooting it against a guy that had one of these, does that mean that this is going to track better than the Arken? No. They're going to track about the same. Actually, they do track the same. This one repeats to 0. This one repeats to 0. So can he see things through his scope, the Athlon? Can he see things or hits on steel that I may not be able to see? Yes. Yes, he can. He will be able to see things a little clearer at longer range with this guy versus the Arken. The Arken has a tendency to starburst when the sun is shining towards the lens. So if you're looking down range, the sun's going down and the sun's kind of you're looking through the glass and the sun's kind of creeping in there, even though you have a sunshade. The Arken has a tendency to starburst a little bit inside, and you'll see those little light rays coming through where you don't on the Helos. That's just a difference in the coatings they put on the lenses to alleviate some of that. So that tells me that the Helos has a little bit better glass. Now, it's $200 more, okay? I like the Arkens enough that I run them. I don't have Heloses set up on any hunting packages. I've got it set up on a loaner gun that we loan out to guys that don't have guns, but they still want to compete. So we loan them a gun, and we set a scope on there that they can use that works, it repeats, and does everything it's supposed to. Why do I use this gun in competition? Why do I use this scope on a competition setup versus an Arken? I've just had more guys say that the clarity down range, when we're shooting over 1,000 yards or 1,000 yards and in, it really doesn't, it's not a huge deal. The Arkens in this, they're pretty close. But when you get past that, it seems like the Athlon pulls away because you're able to see hits on target better with the Athlon than you are the Arken. So it's just a little bit of clarity there. Now, if we're talking about hunting setups or, you know, a crossover scope or budget, if you're in a budget, then you're stuck in that budget. That's where you have to be. So just kind of a comparison of the helos right here, and this is just my opinion to you guys and the time that I've spent behind these guys, these scopes, including this scope, to let you guys know that the Arken, they're great. They do their job. Are they the best glass out there? No, they're not. They do not compete with a high-end Leopold. They do not compete with a Maven. They do not compete with a Track. Now, you'll see that if you get them at long distances and you're able to look at, especially during mirage days when it's really mirage outside, a better glass tends to cut the mirage a little better than more inexpensive glass. That's just how it is. With scopes, you get what you pay for unless you're talking about another manufacturer. So let's talk about that for a second. There are some scopes out there that are running some plastic internals. Okay, what kind of plastic is it? I have no idea. Is it polymer? I don't know. All I know is it's not stainless steel. These scopes right here, all of these scopes right here, all have stainless steel internals. I would rather, would you cut your deer up with a plastic knife? Is that really a fair comparison? Well, they make some plastic knives that are pretty sharp. Do you think it's going to hold its edge very long? I'm just throwing that out there. A steel knife is going to hold its edge. I first started out as a young man. One of my first jobs was a butcher. So I know a lot about sharp knives. I know a lot about knife steel. So I don't think I would ever use a plastic knife to skin a deer or to cut up a deer or really do anything with a deer. Now, a plastic knife might work in the kitchen to, maybe cut up some vegetables, but, above and beyond that, that's about where I would keep it, in the kitchen to do some vegetables, maybe. I don't own any plastic knives. I've seen some. My point is the edge of that knife gets dull really quick, so it doesn't last very long, okay? Stainless steel knives, you can run them down and they last. You can resharpen them, resharpen them, resharpen them, resharpen them. You could to a plastic, but I really don't know how to sharpen plastic knife. Anyways, above and beyond that, what do you think it would do in a scope when you're dialing it up, down, left, right? I don't think that these stainless steel internals are going to get the abuse that a knife edge would get, okay? Maybe like plastic internals wouldn't get the abuse that a knife edge would get. But here's my point. The stainless steel is going to last longer, period. It's harder. It's got more refined edges that will stay there regardless of how much you dial them, okay? Plastic internals aren't that way. It is what it is, guys. Think about it. The whole reason we started this channel was to educate people a little bit more about optics. So how do you educate somebody if you don't know a lot about it? I'm no scope expert, okay? All I know is what I've done and what I've seen and what I've used in the field, okay? I spend a lot of time behind these guys. I keep repeating that because I do. I feel like there's some guys out there that offer their opinion that don't spend the time behind the equipment that they're reviewing, okay? I don't know who that is. I ain't gonna say any names. It doesn't really matter. I'm just telling you guys that what we do here is spend time behind this stuff. We use this stuff, and then I give you opinion on it. Sometimes I'll show you video through the scope, hoping that it does the scope justice. A lot of times it looks better in person, but for whatever reason, people like to see that. So I show that. The Helos BTR Gen 2, is a great scope to video through. So there are some guys across the pond that have emailed me and asked me if they shoot air rifles. So they make these little tracer rounds, and they want to know if the helos, if you can see the bullet through the scope. Well, I can tell you straight up, I can see the 22 going downrange. I can see the 22 bullet on a nice day. I can see the 22 bullet going downrange subsonic through the helos. I can see it through the Arken. But does that make these scopes a good scope to video through in order to see that round going down range? I don't think that you can see the round going down range with a camera through these scopes, but you can with your eye. And that, to me, tells me that there's a difference between what I see and what the camera sees. Just a tidbit of information there for you guys. So anyways, this is my collection of Arkens that I use the most. This is a scope that we have set up on a competition gun that some guys are hunting with. I'm not yet. I plan to one of these times when I decide to move away from these, but right now this is how I'm running my stuff. I appreciate you guys emailing me, asking me the questions. I appreciate you guys, the new subscribers. We're at 700 and some subscribers right now. The next video I do will be a scope giveaway video. I have believe it or not, I have a Vortex to give away. It was on an AR like this, not this AR, but an AR that came in that was mounted up, and we're going to be doing a bolt action build for that guy. And he wanted to get rid of his scope. He wanted to move to an Arken scope and a bolt action setup. So we're going to be doing another gun build. It will be a gun put together, gun build, whatever you want to say it. We're going to be doing a Weatherby Vanguard action with that gun, and we're going to be mounting up an Arken scope on it. So it's going to be similar to this build right here. This put together, build put together. Anyways, it's going to be similar to this, and we have that scope to give away. So be looking for the next video, and that will come out next week. It'll be probably next weekend. I'll do another video, and in that video I will be giving away a Vortex. I think it's a 1-6. I will go over the scope before I give it away, and it'll be the first guy that emails me. So be sure to watch the videos. Turn on the notification, and so that you can be the first one to win the scope. The scope will be, I'll need shipping for the scope is all I'll need out of it. I think the most that's cost so far is, I think, $20 for shipping. So there's one guy that lived here pretty close that was like $11, and then there's another guy that lives a few states away that is a little more money. So, you know, around that $20 range is about shipping, what shipping will be. I use Venmo, so if you have a Venmo account set up, that would be great. You'll have a week to set it up, just so you know. And we'll go from there, guys. Again, I appreciate all the subscribers. I appreciate everybody that emails me. My email is pantherhollow@mail.com if you guys have any questions. Right now we're still building the shop. We're trying to get set up, and we will have a website up, I'm hoping, before the end of the year. It's just a slow process, like I've said in the past, when you're trying to do it yourself. I try to do everything myself, that way I save a little money. But anyways, hey, I appreciate you guys watching again, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.